Welcome to Around Aretuza, and with me here tonight is Johaggis. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. I'm finished my work day a little while ago and got a little Gwent in before now, but taking it easy this evening probably. What about you?
I got out of basketball practice, hustled home, ordered food, had dinner with my fiance, who is now off to volleyball practice. We're both coaches, so I'm basically straight into this from there, and no time to get tired yet. That's for
I
sure.
so I just realized I was mistaken about something. Especially given your username, I actually thought you were already married and this was not your fiance.
No, and the thing about it too is because of the username again, TheFoxBride, and on Twitch my emote for like waving is her. So time and time again, people think I'm a woman, and I'll be in other chats
Oh,
and they will treat me and start talking. I'm like, do I have the awkward talk and just be like, no, I'm actually a guy, and then be like, the Fox Bride with who's that girl? I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna let this ride. And and that's the thing too, as we're doing it, people are like, oh, who's like the bride? And I'm like, well, that's kind of her. So the Twitch name she made is the Fox Bride.
that's incredible.
Yeah. And some people I've stopped correcting people on like saying wife and whatnot. It's fine. We've been together like 9 years. We've been engaged for like 3 years. It's all
Fair.
just a word, right?
Yeah. I remember there was a user who was somewhat prominent in the community. Kara Lisa, I think, was his IGN. His IGN. He was a like very, I guess, solid in his being a dude. He is like completely cis everything, right? And but he had like a female avatar. He had this name that looks like a woman's name.
Yeah.
And so he would get, not only would people mistake him for a woman a lot, but some people would hit on him in like Discord DMs or send him compromising
God.
pictures because of this name.
To
And
be
it's
a
like,
woman, good Lord.
yeah, I I cannot imagine what it is like to like endure these gaming communities as a woman. That just sounds awful.
No, and at times, like it was Battlegrounds in the Division, like we would play those games together because she likes shooters and Battle Royale. We would only play duos. She would not play in a squad because of that, because she didn't want to talk on a mic and just have to deal with that. And I'm like, well, that really
Yeah, fair.
sucks.
Yeah. And there, of course, there are going to be like people coming out of the woodwork being like, you could just mute them. You can use a voice changer. And it's like, it's not really the problem.
Yeah, that's a yeah, I never
Just
would
use
have.
a voice changer is a pretty
Yeah,
bad suggestion.
yeah, you just want to play some, online games. Oh, just use a voice changer. What the fuck? What? Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's wild. All right, so you said you got done with your. Oh, no, what? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, that was I guess a heavy way to start off.
Yeah, hey, that's what this show does. We just get into anything and everything. So yeah, anything that comes up, I'm glad for it. You said you got done
Fair.
with your work day. What is it you do?
Yeah, so I am a front end web developer for a small startup in the city, New York City, where I live.
Oh,
And yeah, so I basically do everything involving the creating the visuals and the display of the site. Not a designer, but yeah, I built that, and this is actually why I was able to help Kakna help recreating the front end of the Aretuza site. So I got like designs from Ellis and Onket, and then was able to implement that, which was a lot of fun.
okay.
Um, Even if it is very similar to what I do as a day job.
Yeah, I guess if you like to do it. So you live in New York City, like proper, like in the city?
I live in Brooklyn, so yeah,
Okay.
pretty
Brooklyn.
proper.
Okay,
Yeah.
Williamsburg or anything real. All I know about Brooklyn is like the very hipster spots that came up. Williamsburg and oh,
Greenpoint,
Park
Park
something?
Slope.
Park Slope, that's it.
So I actually live south of Williamsburg and west of Park Slope. I'm like pretty close to the East River. I'm like a little bit south of the area called downtown Brooklyn, which is basically like City Hall, or is it a City Hall? Borough Hall, and
Yeah.
like a couple of other sort of big things. This is definitely not a cheap place either.
See,
And it is like very close to the whole center, but
okay,
not
that was
quite
that
like,
was going to lead into my next thing. And again, you don't have to answer if you don't want to. But I spoke with somebody who lived just on the other side in Jersey. I don't know exactly, but literally she can take a picture of Manhattan, like downtown Manhattan, like right outside her window. And she said her like one bedroom, one bath apartment that I want to say, I don't remember the exact square footage, but it was something studio esque, like under
Yeah.
500, like under 400. She said it was like over $3,000. And comparing that to, this like 1,700, 1,800 square foot home I have here, that our mortgage is like $1,100 a month. And I was just curious, is your rent, is it like a two bed? Is it a one?
So yeah, I've actually have a brother who lives out in Michigan, and also a software dev. Makes me a little bit jealous with some of these
Yeah.
rent numbers. So I live with one roommate. We've got a pretty nice two bedroom in this part of Brooklyn, and our rent, after negotiating with our current landlord, since because of the whole COVID situation, is I think
Oh,
3,800 a month.
good. How many square feet is it? Do
So
you know?
I don't offhand,
Okay.
but it has in-unit washer dryer, which is really rare to come by in the
Yeah.
city, and like a
Okay.
dishwasher and stuff.
Oh wow. But you said
So
3,800 a month?
yep.
Damn.
So I
And
pay 1,900 of that.
yeah, and like who I spoke with, like kind of said what she made, and like what she made would be insane here in North Texas. But over there, it's honestly like, I'm not gonna say it's pushing like poverty or anything like that, but it's, she was making like well over like 100 grand. And like there, that's what you need to basically survive like with one person. And here, like the suburbs of North Texas, if you're making 100 grand, you are just banking. I mean, you could have just a massive home and everything easily in that way. And just, I don't know, like every time I've been to New York City, I love it, but I could not
It is
imagine.
stupid expensive, yeah.
Just insane.
And like, I mean, yeah, the salaries do tend to be higher as well. Like, I mean, I'm thankful to be a software dev for a lot of reasons, especially during this year. But like the starting salary for an entry level developer here is like 85,000 or something
Yeah.
on average. So like, yeah, if you want to live by yourself in New York, you need a pretty hefty salary. If you want to live anywhere close to like the exciting stuff and not like super far out in Brooklyn, that's also going to be a lot more money. Like the first apartment I got here, I got with three roommates, and we were like a good way out in Brooklyn so that we could like all afford it.
Jeez. Yeah, it's because I'm a teacher, high school teacher, high school coach, so I get a little more of that aspect. And I make, after my stipend and all that, it's like 66,000, which here it's like, man, that's solid. Like I said,
Yeah.
if I lived on my own, I could easily buy, a home that's probably around 200 grand or maybe a little bit more than that, and be able to survive off of that with other expenses. And that would be just straight poverty in New York
Yeah.
City.
Yeah. Living on like 65 is not a good time.
Yeah, I could.
Um
Yeah.
my previous job was not a good developer gig, and they paid like 65, and that was not easy. Um as yeah, there's like so much of your income goes towards like rent and stuff. The thought of like moving closer and paying more rent becomes kind of a bad time. Um, but yeah, I mean, as I said, my brother's a software developer out in Michigan, and he makes a similar like salary to what I do, but it just goes so far.
Yeah.
Um, it's like he's like, yeah, dude, I'm like paying off this home we refinanced like a 15-year mortgage. It's like, yeah, okay, sure,
Yeah. No, our mortgage is cheaper than the apartment we rented moving into here.
fair.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. So how has COVID in this whole past year, how has that impacted or affected you?
Well, I had a lot of plans. I don't right now. um, certainly just like not seeing people is a big thing. I leave the apartment probably like once a day to go get coffee or something, and pretty much everyone here wears a mask, which is a relief. But certainly it is, even like seeing friends is pretty rare occasion. Thankfully my job wasn't really affected much. I think we lost like one deal from a company that could no longer afford to work with us. But for for the most part, my job has been pretty safe just because of the nature of it and the fact that remote work is like no big deal. However, what it also meant is that we hired like several more people who are distributed across the country, and some of whom I haven't met yet, even though we're like a 12-person team.
But you work with them
Um,
like daily?
uh, yeah. So one of them I've never met. I work with pretty much every day. He's like one of the other developers. Thankfully, we had some sort of get together a little while back, where a few of us could hang out at a restaurant outdoors and finally meet some of the other coworkers. But like, I don't think most of the new people are ever gonna meet like the CEO, or at least for a long time. Um, so that's been a little weird. Um, and yeah, any plans I had to like travel and see friends in other cities or something are just completely gone.
Did you
Um,
did you actually like have plans set? Were they canceled?
yeah, we were gonna have like 10 people over in like our tiny apartment. It
Shit.
was gonna be super fun, for a weekend, and it was like March, so like end of March. So it was like right when people started canceling all the plans, and we're like, yeah, we should probably cancel this. Um, in addition, COVID testing here has been kind of crazy. I showed up to get my last test. This was like right before Christmas. I got tested, and I had to get to the site 2 hours before it opened. And then I had like a maybe like 20 minutes in and out. And the reason I got there so early is because the last time I went, I got there 5 minutes after it opened, and I waited for 8 hours to get a COVID test. And I'm not like exaggerating. It was literally like I got there at 8:05 or something, and was there until like 4 p.m.
Was it the full on swab in the nose test, or was it like that quick pathogen one or whatever they call it?
So it was one of the rapid response ones, which
Okay,
is
yeah.
also a nasal swab.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Although the first COVID test I got, they shoved it real far up
See,
there.
I think that's like the best indicator or something that they go like all the way back there.
Yeah. Like I don't mean to discourage anyone from getting a COVID test, but that does suck. Um like it's unfortunate that we have to do this, you know.
Yeah, how long was that swab like back there? How long do they keep it back there?
Ooh, like only like 3 seconds or something. It
Okay.
was like nothing, but it's still just like uh, ooh,
Yeah,
ooh.
I've had issues with like allergies, and I've done all these allergy testing, and I got tested for something. I swear, I think it was like acid reflux, and they put a camera up my nose and down to like look in places, and they kept it in there. And eventually, I felt the only thing I could think of is if anybody's ever had like sinus pressure or just pressure like in their nasal cavities. I'm like, just imagine a vice just crushing that. And they kept holding it in there because the doctor was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I'm literally just, my eyes are squinting. I'm trying not to tear up, but my like masculinity is just like, "No, I can't tap out. I can't tap out." I'm like, "I'm fine." And eventually, I'm literally just like, "I'm good. I'm good." And I was like, "Brett, just fucking tell him to pull it back out." And eventually pulled it out. And so when people say like that COVID, I'm like, okay, I remember that pain. And it's again, it's just like, it's just internally being crushed. And,
Yeah.
but like the COVID, like again, in New York City again, just, yeah, major population here. Lindsay, my fiance, she tested positive for it back in June. And she went and tested, and they have drive-through places here. And she literally drove to a place, got tested within like 20, 30 minutes, waited maybe like an hour or two, and then got her results. And just, it's one of those things where we have all the COVID numbers, but then how many people, like you said, there are just discouraged, like, I can't waste a day to go get tested.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, in fact, no, I went and I guess I got there at 6 a.m. this time, and I was just because I was just like, if I have to wait 4 hours, like I can't afford to do that. Like I can't tell my boss, hey, I'm trapped at the COVID place again. Um, so yeah, certainly, it's just like I'm lucky that I had the flexibility in my schedule to be able to do this.
Yeah, no, that's just one of those unfortunate things, is how many people have sadly like fallen by the wayside, if you will, because they have not been able, to do that, or to be able to work from home. And
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just, I remember interviewing people like through this in the previous iteration of this show, and just being like, oh yeah, when COVID ends, and it's like we're in January, and I'm pretty sure in the United States it's like the most cases it's been, or maybe it's the most deaths or something.
Yeah, we're up to like 4,000 deaths a day or something like that. It's pretty nuts. And like, thankfully, my brother's wife and my dad both just got appointments. She's a teacher as well, out in Michigan. And then my dad is 65 and over. He's 71 now, I guess. And so he's able to get a test in New York. His thing is like set for like early February, I think. So like soon they're gonna be vaccinated. But I mean, for me and you, well, I guess you're actually a teacher as well. So you might be able to get vaccinated a little early. But for me, it's gonna be like, I don't know, May maybe.
Yeah, I've seen things come up, and it's maybe this is just, and I'm probably wrong here, but I almost think about the rollout of this has been so disastrous that I'm like, I'm very healthy. Not to brag. Here's me bragging. I'm very healthy. I'm healthy. If, like I said, if Lindsay had it back in June, I never felt anything from it. We obviously lived together. This is the healthiest I've ever been. I usually get sick with like an upper respiratory infection from all those damn kids in the classroom. I didn't get it because I'm always washing my hands. I'm always wearing a mask. And so it's one of those, I don't want to take it away. But my dad's kind of in that same boat with you. He's on dialysis. He actually just ended cancer treatments like
Wow.
back in the summer or spring. And so him, like I haven't seen them, I think since Christmas, we kind of dropped some things off and, exchanged gifts. But for them, it's like, I would think if he gets it, it's like a death sentence. And so with him, it's like, just stay home, stay away, don't go out in anything
Yeah.
like that. And yeah, the rollout, again, we're in very, very different states and cities, like New York City and Texas. There's probably a very different, actually, maybe there wasn't that too big a different response. Did y'all lock down pretty quick back in March?
Uh, Somewhat quick. Like
Okay.
we could have locked down faster. We also have the weird thing of like our governor and the mayor of New York City are like in constant tension. So like
Yeah.
there'll be times where we like don't lock down fast enough because the mayor of New York said let's lock down, and then New York State governor is just like, no, you don't know what's good for New York. Like we're not locking down. And it's like, okay. So that's been a constant like struggle as well. I think there's like some of responses happening, but they're definitely not as fast as one would like.
Yeah, and that's I know. Was it the mayor wrote? Someone, one of them came out with a book. I don't remember which one it
I think it
was.
was the governor.
Was it Cuomo? Okay.
Yeah, Cuomo.
Yeah.
He is a narcissist, and that does not help.
You don't
I
have
don't,
you.
I don't love Bill De Blasio either, but our
Yeah.
governor being the kind of guy he is has been a real problem.
Like you only have to have a passing. Pay attention to just a passing amount of like national politics. And New York politics are just going to be thrust on you because of all the journalists based there. So I know
Yeah,
so
it's
much
true.
about de Blasio and so much about Cuomo, not giving a shit about like either one of them, because it's fun though, because it seems like nobody really likes them, because obviously Republicans and people on the right aren't going to like them. But even a lot of people I pay attention to, like bunch of far left people and stuff like that, they're not going to like him. And I keep trying to find out who likes this person, but it doesn't seem like anybody likes them.
No, not really. But somehow they keep getting
They
nominations. So
keep
it's
getting elected.
like you gonna vote for Bill De Blasio or this like hardline conservative from Staten Island? And it's like, well, not giving me much of a choice there.
Staten Island, that's a whole other thing that I had no idea about. And then all I hear about Staten Island, and tell me if this is incorrect, with Staten Island basically is like the sticks of Texas in New York.
So I want to preface this with I am not from Staten Island. I don't even know if I've actually been there. But yes, that is my impression of it.
You look at like the voting maps and you just see all this blue, and then you see the red of maybe, is it the Upper East Side? Is that the real like wealthy? Is the Upper West Side, Upper East Side?
Both of them are fairly wealthy.
Okay.
And then yeah, you've got Staten Island. It's just this big red blob,
Red,
like
yeah.
hanging on the bottom with their sort of yeehaw of the north.
Yeah, and that's the equivalent I say of Texas is, Texas is obviously, a red state. And
Well, these days.
well, yeah, I mean, it still went red. It's still, we'll see what happens. But hey, voter suppression is a hell of a thing, isn't it?
That's true.
When you're, again, Google just Texas gerrymandering congressional districts, and you will see the most fucked up congressional districts. So that's a whole other thing, a whole other topic there. But that's the thing with like Austin. Austin County's called like the Republic of Travis County because it's this sea of red, and then Travis County's like this blue. And like that's kind of what I think of like Staten Island is. You have this red, island. I assume it's an actual island since it's called Staten Island.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's like just south of Manhattan.
Yeah, it's like, oh, is it? Yeah, like south. Okay, and then I know, I just drew a blank. Queens, Long Island, and all that is what goes out because I've been there a few times.
Yeah,
Shea
so
Stadium. It's not Shea Stadium. Jesus, it hasn't been Shea Stadium for like 15 years.
yeah, I honestly like my knowledge of that area is kind of rough. Is Shea Stadium not the Citibank one?
Yeah, the Mets.
City Field?
Yeah, City Field.
Yeah,
There
that's
you
the
go.
name.
Flushing Meadows, all that fun stuff. All right, now that we have covered our New York geography, what is your dream job? What if the snap of the fingers you get to do this for as long as you want?
Sure, yeah. So this is actually pretty easy for me because I'm, especially as it's part of why I got into software development, and it's something I've kind of slowly learning on the side. I would love to do game development. I know it's like a brutal industry
Oh,
that treats
mercy.
people and spits them
Yes.
out, pays less than my current industry,
I was about to
and
say.
has like terrifying hours, but I love doing it. I love making games. I have done a lot in terms of making games in my spare time, doing game jams. I'm now doing a Coursera course in game design, as it's not really something I've done as a lot of, but I like working, or I've done a bunch of Unity stuff as well. And yeah, I really do want to make games, even though it's gonna kick my ass.
So how would you transition into that? Because it sounds like something that you
It's a
could
$1 million question.
feasibly get into, but I guess is it like a pay thing?
So I mean, so it's possible that like if you have the sort of chops, and you know a couple people, you can sort of do it, right?
Yeah.
The trick is to get the chops. I don't really want to like go out of my way and get a master's in this, although that is something that one could do. Um, I would rather just sort of use what contacts I can and try and find a company that would hire me. Um, but yeah, certainly one thing to do is get those chops ready. So that's part of why I'm doing this Coursera course, is to really, strengthen up those technical skills in game development specifically. Software development in general is helpful, but it's not really the whole thing.
So do you make like a portfolio and actually develop something to kind of send off so they can see what you can do, or how does that process work?
Yeah, I think you want to have a portfolio. And I've made, so like I have a couple of my game jam games in my on my like personal site, although I haven't updated that site in a while, so like it doesn't even have all the stuff I've made. I made like a very short dungeon crawler at one point. Um, that's on there as well, and I very slowly, because it's way too big of a project for me to reasonably actually complete. I have an RTS that I've been making.
Oh.
And if certainly if that were out and it had like actual multiplayer, that would be huge. Um, but yeah, you develop a portfolio. If you can demonstrate that you know these skills, certainly being like, hey, I've been a software dev for like 4 years now, like that definitely matters as well.
Okay. So you bring up RTS. Is that your type of game?
I do love myself a good strategy game. RTS is being not exactly chief among them, as these days I do play turn-based strategy a lot. Um, but my first like game that I guess I really came to love was, strangely enough, Roller Coaster Tycoon, which at its heart is kind of a real-time strategy game. Um, Although when I got a little bit older, I really dug Age of Empires 2 and then later Age of Empires 3, and still hold Age of Empires 3 as kind of like the gold standard for me. I played like some StarCraft as well, and StarCraft 2 when that came out, but I don't know, something about Age of Empires 3 really captured the essence of like what I love about RCSs.
Okay. So how old are you?
That's a good question. How old do you think I am?
I'm gonna say, judging especially by that, I'm gonna say you're like late 20s to 30.
Fair. Yeah, I am 28
Okay,
as
perfect.
of November. So
Okay, and the only reason I said that was because I'm 36, and Age of Empires 2 was, I mean, I don't know how many hours I played that, like back in the 90s. That is a big reason that got me even into history. Like my degrees in history, I've been obsessed with it since like junior high, especially like medieval European. And so you mentioned that and you said Age of Empires 3, and I'm like, I kind of remember Age of Empires 3, excuse me. But I remember that came out when I was in college. That's the one where it was like the New World.
yeah, it's like
Okay.
colonialism, imperialism, and that
Yeah,
sort of stuff.
okay.
Um, yeah, so that one came out, and I want to say 2005 maybe, and then there was like two expansions to it. They added one that added Native American factions and one that added Asian factions. Um, and I'd say like by like late high school, I was like mostly playing like that. That's those like later expansions to Age of Empires 3.
Have you what turn-based? You said you're playing turn-based now generally?
Well, I consider Gwent turn-based. Um,
Oh.
along with other card games. I've been playing a
Okay.
little bit of Runeterra as well, but I don't think it's really my jam. And I've kind of been burned by Magic and Magic Arena too many times to really like play a lot of those these days. Although I have played a lot of Magic over the years and like have like a kind of extensive collection. But yeah, Wizards is just a rough company to be a fan of.
Yeah.
Other than that, also like Heroes of Might and Magic was a franchise I really enjoyed as well, despite the fact that every game is problematic in some way.
Yeah. I think that's I'm beginning to find out almost everything in society is problematic in some way. So
That's fair. Yeah, I
you
guess
yeah, I was gonna
outside of
say you
maybe Age
just
of Empires 3, perfect game. Who knows?
Ensemble. Or they're not around anymore, so we can speak good of them. That's Ensemble was who made
Yeah,
that, I
right.
believe, right?
Yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. I think their last game was Halo
Microsoft.
Wars, but I never played it as I'm
Okay.
not really a console gamer and never owned the system for it.
Never a console gamer.
No, I actually do have a console here, but it might not be the one you'd expect. I have a PS2, and then I also have an N64. The PS2 we use as a DVD player mostly, and the N64 I got when I was in college, and played mostly the Star Wars pod racing game on.
Star Wars Pod Race. I don't remember that. I just always remember with Shadows of the Empire. I think that was the main like Star Wars game, but I never had an N64. I was a PlayStation when that PlayStation came out. That hooked me in, and then you said the PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 with that DVD player was like the game changer.
Very easy to convince your parents to get you one when you tell them your DVD player sucks and this one works.
At that time, I have a brother who's 3 years older, and that came out. He was in college, living his own apartment. So him and his buddy got one, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be there every night I can, and that way I didn't have to really mess. I didn't have to mess with one at home, and I just drive over there and play the. I remember it's Metal Gear Solid 2 was just one of those for multiple reasons. That game just like messed me up. And anybody who's played that, I think, understands what I mean. Have you ever played that?
No, all I
Okay.
know about Metal Gear is this one video game donkey video where he tries to break down the story of all the Metal Gear
Oh
games.
my gosh, I literally just watched that like 2 or 3 days ago.
It is a masterpiece of YouTube video making.
So you didn't even know that story before he explained it?
No, I
Okay.
uh, I had heard like names. I'd heard like Solid Snake and Ocelot, but I never like knew the connections between anything.
Oh my okay, here's the thing. And it's Dunkey, right? Like donkey with a U.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So if y'all are listening to this and you have any interest in like Metal Gear, Google that Donkey Metal Gear Solid. He explains very rapidly this entire insane series. I've played every single Metal Gear game from the original like NES one back in like the early 90s. It might have come out in like the late 80s or something like that. And I was so confused by him explaining everything, and he was right. And that's what confused me. And he at one point he called someone a like quintuple reverse uh agent. And I'm like, that's exactly it. Because it's an insane series. Kojima, Metal Gear, it's absolutely wild. And it's one of those, I don't even want to tell people to even go play it because it's might have been one of those things you had to play at the time. It's insane.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah. It's like basically if
Um,
someone had like well, I won't say that. Go ahead. I caught myself.
fair, yeah. Yeah, I gotta say, I think I own Metal Gear Solid 5. It's probably like a humble bundle or something. I just haven't played it, and now I'm a little intimidated, honestly.
The-
I don't doubt it could be a good game, but certainly it seems like the story would be a little tough to follow.
no, like playing Metal Gear 5, I'm like, I don't know how it does connect to the other ones, but that was my favorite one for gameplay reasons. Like if that gameplay intrigues you, look up a Let's Play or somebody doing it. It's worth it because I love the gameplay of that. Especially, again, I don't know how many people are interested in history. It dealt with the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in the 80s. So it's a lot of 80s music, kind of an 80s war aesthetic, which, again, being born in the 80s, that's like right up my alley. So I
Yeah,
recommend it
fair.
if you have any passing interest, like in it.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Have you actually? I'm just curious about this. As it's fairly new, have you gotten your hands on Cyberpunk
I have
on PC? I hope.
on PC. Yes,
What do you think?
it. I played it. I really enjoyed it when I played it, but I shouldn't have bought it. This is the busiest time of the year for me. It's the height of basketball season. Like I said, every night, I'm home at the earliest, maybe 6 p.m. And then usually that's getting some time with the fiance, making something for next. And it's like maybe I'll get an hour or two. So I really should not have bought it. But it just seemed okay. It seemed good. But I was expecting, because again, the hype, like revolutionary, and just thinking, like, okay, this is going to make me, feel something revolutionary to me, like The Witcher 3 did. Like that, playing that was something that's just like, man, I don't think I've ever played anything like this. And Cyberpunk just seemed like, okay, there's a whole lot of shit to do, but I don't know if it just didn't capture me. What'd you think?
That's fair. So I definitely have to sort of like check myself a little bit here because I'm a little bit of a CDPR fanboy. Hence, these.
Yeah.
You see them? So I I personally had a really good time though. I'm not done with the game yet, but every like that what I love about way that like The Witcher 3 and The Witcher 2 and to some extent as well Witcher 1 worked is I love the way that CDPR does quests and does like things like conversations where I have a really tough like some people play a game and they want to be the good guy and they want to be the bad guy and they want to sort of like explore sort of every option. For me, my like peak game experience is like if I'm trying to be the good guy and that's very difficult. So
Yeah.
like if I'm playing like Horizon Zero Dawn and there are like three choices and it's like, do you want to be compassionate, like intelligent, or like tough, Um, then it just doesn't come across that easy or that it doesn't come across as that difficult because it's just like, all right, well, this is clearly the correct choice if I want to be a good person, and this is if I want to be a tool. So then when I get to like Cyberpunk and it's like, do I tell this guy that his mind is in danger and like, destroy his like state of being basically? I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what the correct option is. And for me, that's like peak RPG experience. So I've had a great time. Although I won't say that the game is like flawless or it doesn't have a bunch of bad bugs that
Yeah.
probably should have been fixed.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one of those, it's kind of been, I don't know, universally agreed upon that was the case. But no, I will judge that game more coming up in the spring or summer when I have more time to do it. Because that's another thing too is I might be like, oh, I got maybe an hour, 2 hours, to play a game, and something like that. You really need to get immersed in. Because the reason
Yeah.
I bought it, I was not going to buy the game, and then when it got like a bunch of streamers got it early and they started, playing it. I just looked at some of them just exploring and just walking around the city, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. Like that's what drew me to that game. I didn't care about the main story. It was I want to walk around, and that was another thing that kind of disappointed me. It didn't feel like the world was too lived in.
Interesting.
Did you feel like it just, I don't know, again,
I
I'm
kind of did, but
okay.
I do wish that I could talk to like more like shopkeepers and stuff.
See,
I
maybe
felt
that
like
was
maybe I
it.
couldn't like get food from people or like consume food at like a ramen stand or something. Like there are definitely like things I would like, and like some people are like, oh, there was clearly supposed to be a train system and it didn't make it in, and like I'd be down for a train. But the world still felt fairly alive to me. And certainly towards the beginning of the game, when I was just starting out, it's like, all right, well, if you're in a car and someone else is driving, you can press F and like skip the ride. And I'm like, but this is the best part. I'm like looking
Yeah.
around and seeing like these giant like stories high holograms and seeing this like the cities and airships and things like that, and I'm just having a blast.
No,
So
it definitely
yeah,
seems like the more time you have with it and taking your time with it. So I will 100%, I will definitely revisit it
I mean,
in the
you might
future.
not enjoy it if you do,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean
like
it's might as well. I
yeah,
mean I
it's worth
paid
checking
for it,
out.
so I might as well try it.
Fair enough.
Cuz
Yeah.
at this point I can't gift it to anybody.
True.
Yeah. So you seen any movies lately? I know that's kind of hard to say, but anything at home at least. Have you seen Wonder Woman?
I have not. I've
Okay.
heard that it is not great, but a lot of people have said a lot of things about it. Um, but I don't really know anything about this one. I like the first one okay, although I feel like it's always a bit of a risk when Zack Snyder is involved in things because he has a tendency to make really boring DC movies. Um, like I did not like, for example, Batman versus Superman or Justice League. I found them both like very dull movies. Whereas like the
Yeah.
cool parts of Wonder Woman to me were the little bit more grounded parts where she's like running across trenches and shit like that.
Yeah, I will admit I have not seen all of the DC movies, and I'm trying to imagine a number somebody could pay me to watch them because they just like you said they're so dark, they seem so dull. And this leads into the next thing I was going to bring up. I just blitzed through all of the Marvel movies. Have you seen them all?
Yes, I don't. I think I've seen them all. I'm trying to remember if there are any I have missed.
Have you
But
seen at least like the main ones and like the ending and like
yeah,
end
yeah,
game?
yeah.
Okay. And spoilers for anything that comes out. So going through them, I didn't plan on doing it, but again, Lindsay was watching them, and I was like, you know what? I've heard some of these are pretty good, and I wanted to watch some of them. I really wanted to watch Iron Man 3 because Shane Black. I love Shane Black. He did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He did the Lethal Weapons, Long Kiss Goodnight, Last Boy Scout, The Nice Guys. Like I'm a Shane Black, fanboy, and so I really wanted to see it
Fair.
for that one. But going through them, my favorite, like by a mile, was Thor Ragnarok.
That's a good one. Um, so it's interesting because my girlfriend has seen almost none of them.
Yeah.
And she recently wanted to watch the Iron Man movies. We would just watch Iron Man 2 the other day, and I gotta say, that one did not hold up very well. I think it was like partly because when the movie first came out, it was like sort of we'd only really had like the Spider-Man movies recently, which are among other things very campy. For this to be a little bit more sort of serious, I think people were really excited with what like these Marvel movies could be. And Iron Man was like, yeah, we're gonna take a different approach. And the beginning of Iron Man is really good, but it also has one of my least favorite tropes in any superhero franchise, which is ah, so here we have our main hero, and the villain is kind of like the main hero, but evil, and that just always gets to me.
You
So
and me
having
are
like
not so different. like
exactly ah,
that
OX
line needs to not ever be uttered again, like in any movie, especially like a blockbuster movie, please.
yeah, yeah, I completely agree. But I did really like Thor Ragnarok. I think that the Asgard plot was kind of whatever, but I loved all the like more cyberpunky, like Jeff Goldblum plot stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
Jeff Goldblum is a bonus in every single facet, and that movie, because again, that was Taika Waititi, who
yeah,
now is getting involved in like Star Wars. I think he's getting a movie, not a series. I think it's a movie he's getting. But
yeah, he worked on a bit of the Mandalorian though. I think I
yeah, he
haven't
was a
seen the Mandalorian,
voice, and
but
he directed an episode. Yeah, he was the voice of whatever that assassin robot was, I think, and he directed at least one episode of the second season.
fair. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's certainly done some pretty good stuff. Um, For me, I think the Marvel movie I still like best is probably the first Guardian of the Galaxy, even though the villain's kind of weak. I just really enjoyed the main cast and their sort of antics. Um, and I did really also like Black Panther a lot and Thor Ragnarok, and then like maybe Civil War is also up there. Particularly because it was just such a weird take on like the superhero movie when especially when the villain like isn't really that threatening. So
See, Civil
yeah,
War, Civil War to me though, it was just so serious, and it
that's
just
fair.
was. And like my thing coming with them, and I'm not a comics person. I've never liked superheroes. Even if somebody asked me, "Hey, are you into superheroes?" I'd still be like, "No," because it's just not my thing. For a lot of reasons, it always did seem very good versus evil. You know, like you mentioned earlier
Yeah,
about like dialogues and all that. But what I did like about Civil War was it was them fighting each other. And it's like they're tearing each other apart. And I'm like, okay, I can actually like get with this.
yeah. I think the what something that's kind of cool is there's like a really intense ideological struggle at the heart of it, right? Like, how much do we believe in like uh, I guess the personal freedom to enact justice versus like a system of government and whatnot. And I feel like this is something that not all comics address, but it's kind of always a sort of like lingering question, right? Like, okay, like Spider-Man is cleaning up the streets, but like, is it really Spider-Man's place to be like enacting all this justice? Like, yeah, in his world, there's like a vacuum that someone needs to fill, and we can see him doing like good and whatnot. But if Spider-Man decided to just start like hitting the wrong people or killing people or something like that, like we don't really have a good way to stop it or bring him to justice or anything like that. So like it is an interesting question that I don't know if there's like a clear answer to, but I think it comes across well in Civil War, and that makes it a more interesting movie.
There was actually, and it might be the only time I actually say something nice about Saturday Night Live, but they had a sketch on there with Batman, and they had this like African American couple, and they're talking about, oh yeah, Batman came down and just beat the shit out of me. I was just standing on a corner, I guess he thought I was selling drugs. And like that's just a funny thing to think about is yes, and it's my problems with superhero movies in general, but good point you brought up, like with the Dark Knight movies and all that, is yes, in media, we can look and we know this person is good. And we look at these bad people and we know those people are bad. But then people try to equate that to real life. And it's like, we don't know who is bad. We're just at the mercy of the
Yeah,
information that is told to us. And like you said there, if there was a real life, have you seen, the show The Boys on Amazon?
yeah,
Like that is, to me, I like that show because it's like if superheroes were real in our capitalist society, this is what would happen. They would be treated like rock stars, athletes, and basically, demigods all in one. They'd be marketed that way. And they would be so messed up, they would act the way they do on that show. Like they would kill people with impunity. They would do whatever they wanted because what the hell are you going to do? They're basically a god.
yeah. No, I do. So the boys can sometimes be like a little over the top, but for the
Very,
most part, yeah,
very, but yeah.
certainly I think it is like a very interesting take on like okay, but like what if we actually had superheroes? What would that look like? Um, and like you said, it's playing very much into the society we currently know and how it sort of like uses people, and I do agree. I think it's very interesting. And there's always sort of like a boldness that comes with doing one of these like deconstruction series. But I think it pulls it off. I'm pretty compelled to find out what happens to our heroes, and pretty compelled to believe that they are in fact heroes, even if they do bad things sometimes.
Yeah, and that's
Like,
where. Oh no, go
I
ahead.
mean, that is speaking of the boys, not so much Homelander. He is not so much a hero.
Yeah, that I don't know where they're going with that show. It seems like they did a soft reset, like at the end of this season, maybe to get like so many people caught back up because it's been such a big success. But
Yeah,
I don't know, and that's a big reason why I'm interested in the show is I have no idea where the hell they're going. I know there's comics out there, but again, this is an adaptation, so they might be doing their complete own thing.
fair. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, this is also just like an exciting time in some other TV things as well. Like, um, they're currently, in fact, I'm probably gonna watch at some point tonight the new episode of The Expanse, which is like an incredible show.
I
I don't know
keep
if you've seen
hearing
it.
about that. You're like the third person to randomly bring that up in like the past week, and I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna have to
It's
start
a sign.
taking these signs and just watch that damn show. What, is it streaming anywhere?
It's on Prime.
Okay.
It was originally on the Sci-Fi Channel, I think.
Yeah.
And it was. I don't really know that much about the Sci-Fi Channel, but I hear that it's kind of rare that the series are actually good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But The Expanse was very good, and as much as I will criticize Jeff Bezos, he and his wife apparently are huge fans of The Expanse, and they made sure that Amazon picked it up when it got canceled on Sci-Fi.
Personally, like funding it. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Nice.
So it's like, yeah, I can hate the man for pretty much everything, but I guess I like that he enjoys The Expanse.
You share something in common with someone worth 170 billion or whatever. So there you go. He's just like you.
Not a lot, but
Yeah, he's just like us. He's normal people.
oh God, don't even say that.
No, yeah. We don't. I'm too tired, and I don't want to get depressed. Getting into all of that.
I feel that. Yeah, it's been an exhausting set of years, and I don't feel like it's probably gonna get any less exhausting for a while. Although I guess at least, hopefully, Biden won't be committing crimes every day, so that'll be nice.
Man, I'm so like, and again, it's probably just being, and not that I'm that old, but I was super into like all of that when I was younger, in my 20s and like college and all that, and then getting out of it. Now I'm just like, can we just get people in charge who want to make things better for people that need it? And don't get me wrong, like
apparently that's a huge thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, and again, I'm about to throw like gas on this and like move on, but yeah, it's just, I always equate it to like, there's a two-party system in the country. Like, one party is actively trying to fucking kill you. Like, they want to kill you. And the other party is, they want to make everything as nice as possible as you are being killed.
They're gonna make you comfortable.
They're gonna make you comfortable. They're gonna diversify everything. They're gonna make sure it's, diverse in all of that aspect. But like, you're still gonna fucking die. And that people are just like, oh, you're still both the same. They're not both the same. One is worse.
I'd like to be more comfortable.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. More comfortable, like as they kill you, though. Like it's, they're gonna, step on your neck until you die. But we'll put a pillow under your head in that case, and it'll be like, hey, be good people who are doing it. I don't know. I get very disillusioned by it. So, but like you said, I think it's in like 11. This is January, I think 13th. We're recording this, so inauguration's in less than a week. No, a little bit more than a week, and we'll see if there's any more coups between now and then. Hey, by the time this episode comes out, actually, there might have been another coup. So,
yeah, we might be living under a different government.
The crazy thing about that is, I teach world history and U.S. history. We are literally in 1930s build up to World War II, and the day that stuff was going down, we're talking about like the rise of Hitler and literally like the beer hall putsch, which is where the Nazis failed coup back in the 20s. And I'm teaching it, and I'm like 8th period when this was happening, I'm like, so yeah, the beer hall putsch was in Munich. Hitler and the Nazis, they had this failed coup to take over the government. Oh, now let's flip your computers on, and let's go see a real life coup going on right now. It's like, what are we doing?
Different or something.
And that's, and it's, you try to explain that stuff to them, and it's almost like, man, y'all are, I don't know. Hopefully this isn't like a big deal when y'all are older and it's one of those like little blips that you remember. But I'm like, otherwise y'all can be like, hey, I was a senior in high school when 9/11 happened. And I don't know, maybe this is a big thing that you'll remember when y'all were in high school. So these kids, man, I do not envy the shit they're having to go through these last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. Whew.
That sums it up right there. Yeah. Yeah. Man, like that's it. Whenever that's how you do it, you're just gonna be like, man, yeah.
I'm here, I guess.
I mean, yeah. You're like, yep. You just keep saying that. All right. we'll start to wrap this up here. So again, obviously, Team Aretuza. What is it you do with the team, you'd say?
Fair question. So I kind of do a variety of things that are vaguely or mostly content related. I try and help on the competitive side a little bit, but I'm not really much of a competitor. I play in like the odd community tournament, but I'll like talk to people about that. On the content side is mostly where I sort of do stuff. One of the first things I did was helped to recreate the front end for our site, make it look good. Then I started doing more like casting and stuff. I occasionally write articles, and uh, there's another content related thing I think I do. I'm trying to remember what though. But yeah, casting is sort of one of the bigger things. I sort of do odd jobs here. I have been directing the meta snapshot lately, just sort of organizing it, making sure everything happens. So those are sort of my main roles on the team.
Oh, you're casting. Your partner is generally Sealy, right?
So I've actually casted with a lot of people at this point.
Okay.
The original person I started casting with was Bushy. As
Ah.
we were both on Team Rankstar at the time,
All right.
and he was
R.I.P.
like casting some event. He was like starting to try his hand at it. And I was like, hey, you want a casting partner for Saturday? And he's like, yeah, okay, sure. So I casted with him, and because I was on Team Rankstar, I then also casted a bit with Trinet, who was at the time as well before the team exploded. So those were actually my first casting experiences were with those two. Red Rain was not yet casting at that point. Then once I was picked up by Aretuza, I have since casted with a number of other people. I've casted with Sealy twice or three times now. I've casted with Shinmiri, casted with Trinet again for like the partners tournament and stuff. And I feel like and Red Rain, of course. And I feel like there are a couple other people on Aretuza that I've casted with. Although they are not coming to mind at the moment,
Drift,
and I
maybe.
apologize to
Drift
people.
bling.
I've definitely been part of those drift bling, like many people casting at once kind of
If
thing.
you want to call it casting.
Yeah, right. Or the sort of like round table, let's see what's happening.
Yeah.
Chats. But yeah, I casted with Spyro once as well. I think I don't remember for what though. Maybe like the Aretuza World Cup or something. Anyways, so I've definitely casted with a whole bunch of people at this point, all of whom have been quality casting partners. I really enjoyed the whole experience.
I was about to say you
I guess
just
it's part of why I do it.
you have a just smorgasbord of people there. You named a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, it's also fun because I mean, not only is it like a huge array of people, but like look at this, we've been gabbing away for quite some time, and this is pretty much what casting is. I'm very good at talking a lot, and even to the dismay of others, perhaps. So a gig in which I am basically responsible for talking as much as possible, and any sort of breathers are filled with the other person doing the exact same thing,
Hey,
is perfect.
I was gonna say that makes you an ideal guest for this show, and I want to thank you for that because that's my biggest worry on this is like they're gonna have to really talk and be open. And now you come on and be like, "Ooh, good." That takes the pressure off of me there. So no, you
Well,
and
as long as you're cool with like my sort of controversial takes and forefront politics, I'm fine with it.
look, if we're gonna get. I can assure if there's anybody with more controversial politics than me in the entire community of Gwent, I would love to meet them because
Fair enough.
people who know me, like, obviously I'm not just going to throw all this shit out on Twitter because people, there's no fucking point in that. But people who've had like one-on-one conversations with me, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull out the guillotines kind of guy. So let that, again, history.
My fork is ready.
Yeah, I study history. Like, you cannot study history and not be radicalized by it. But that's a whole other thing. I'll save that for the historical podcasts when we get people on
Fair
there.
enough.
But no, yeah, you and Sealy casted the charity tournament we just did. Y'all were amazing. Y'all both,
Hey, man,
again,
it was
no dead
so
time
great for you
down.
to put that on.
No, it was my
yeah.
pleasure.
I know at least Steele and I were like pretty blown away by the generosity you showed in setting that whole thing up and like funding a lot of it.
Man, I was very glad to pay out that prize pool. It was a lot more than I thought, but It was like $2,150, was so much more. I mean, like I said, it was great. It was great for our team. It was great for everybody involved. But I really do think it was great for the community. And someone like me, you know, can get down at times on things. And that was just a great like reminder that this is a damn good community, and don't let, you know, the little bit kind of get to the top. So
yeah, for every like stupid Reddit post you've also got people like donating like literally thousands of dollars to charity.
yeah.
And like supporting this great event. And like, I mean, it's always just a mind-boggling to me like how many people want to like come and watch me cast with someone. So certainly I have a lot of faith in this community. Even at the times where I maybe doubt like parts of it or something like that.
Yeah.
It's easily the best community I've ever been a part of, at least for an online game.
Yeah, and like you talked about, you know, getting down like the Reddit and all that, or the easiest thing is you just cut that Reddit right out.
Fair, yeah.
That's what I did. And again, I might have to make an apology to some people in certain things, but like I said, there's certain things that I'm just like, oh God, like that's the thing about getting older is you cut the shit out that you don't need to deal with, and you realize you don't need to deal with it.
Yeah.
It just gets you upset, and you just literally banish it, and then it's out of sight, out of mind. And so if anybody out there is just really annoyed by certain things, get rid of it. Like, stop hate watching stuff. Stop doing all that. Like, cut that negative shit out, and like your mindset will be different. It took me a little bit to realize
It's
that,
definitely
but
like
I'm glad I did.
a healthy mentality.
Yeah.
Healthier than what I do, where I just go in there and be like, how does this person think this?
And again, that you're in your 20s though. You still got that vigor and that energy.
Yeah.
Like I'm done with that. I'm too old for that shit, man. I'm staring 40 in the face. Like, yeah.
I'm not tired enough of this yet, I guess. I still got that. Yeah, like you said, the vigor to just be like, I'm gonna disagree with this person in a message.
And you will show them. Yeah.
It so rarely like yields anything positive.
And that's there. And I say this time and time again, half of the messages like of tweets and in Discord, I type something out, whether it's a thought or especially if it's a response to someone, I type it out and I literally just sit there and I'm like, is this going to add anything? Is this going to benefit anybody? Or a lot of people are just going to roll their eyes, or is it just going to, you know, fall on deaf ears or something? And I bet I delete over half of it because I'm like, Brett, you're not adding anything there. You're not trying to solve anything. If you're trying to change someone's mind, their mind's not going to be changed by you doing it. The only time that I do that, and it kind of has come up again in the private Aretuza, is when it relates to history. Because when it relates to history, it's one of those, a lot of people don't know the history. And again, it's my degree, and is with that as being an expert and whatnot, I need to tell people certain things because it does hold water. And it's not just an opinion. And so when it comes down to that, I'm like, okay, I have to do this. And that's the educator in me also. And I won't be mean about it, and I won't tell people they're dumb, but I'm just going to be like, well, I literally just actually someone. I don't actually do the actually, but I'm like, well, you know, and then put it in there. So I'm not going like, well, actually, or correcting like, well, dumbass, you know.
Actually.
Yeah. Well, actually, back in 1400s France, they don't, you don't do that shit. But I kind of
we're still in the guillotines, huh?
Well, yeah. Well, the guillotine come later. That's the 1800s in there. Yeah. We'll get those guillotines ready. But yeah, when I do that, I'm like, that's the only thing to do because I feel like it holds water and I need to do that. If it's something random, if it's like a political thing, I'm like, people have that basis covered. I don't have the wherewithal. I don't have the energy to get into that shit. So I'll leave that to you, the younger people that can take carry the flag into the battle of the online arguments.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't tend to get mixed up in a lot of political arguments online, although sometimes, every once in a while, especially if it's among people I respect, where I'm like, no, I think this is like worth engaging. Certainly, if it's like, if it's someone sufficiently out there, like who I don't know, and it's like in a sufficiently public space, I might be like, all right, let's like inform the moderator. This is like probably not okay. But like, I pretty much never engage in like, if it, like on the Gwent public Discord, I wouldn't like engage with people in politics or something.
Yeah, that's probably not a good look. As a representative of Team Aretuza. Okay.
Yeah, that too.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, man. This has been great. You've been an amazing guest.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. This was a
No,
lot of
thank
fun.
you. Yeah, I'm again. I hope other people think so as much. It's great,
Me too.
getting a look onto people. Johaggis, all his information is below. Y'all check out everything down there. And I always do this. I put people on the spot. You have any parting words of wisdom, or just words in general for our lovely listening audience? As I try to buy you a couple more seconds of time to think of something to say.
Ooh. How about this? There are no brain dead decks. Hot take.